Today we're in our soils class and we're joined by George Koepp, who is a Columbia County UW Extension Agriculture agent. And George is going to talk to us about some of the programming that he does and what is available through UW Extension for farmers really around the state, right, George? I mean, most counties have some presence still in the agriculture world through UW Extension.
We do. People have access to us yet, so that's a good thing.
George, go ahead. And he's going to have some presentation, some documents that I will make PDF files and put on the resource page next to this video later. But
okay,
we'll
good.
Talk
and I'll just hand them to you then, Randy, and you can go ahead and pass those out and get them online for people to see. So, kind of exciting. Soils, UW Extension, and some of the things that we do and can offer and have for students and farmers throughout the state of Wisconsin. We're doing a lot more of these little podcast kinds of things and different ways of disseminating our instruction as well. And yet I want you guys all to know, or everybody should know, that you can just Google online UW Extension, and then you can look up and find out who's your local county agent and call them up and get some extra help. I know this class on soils, but most students dealing with soils typically have some animals to deal with occasionally, and it's quite varied. We go all the way from having farmers that have kind of what I like to term a corn, soybean, and Florida rotation. So we have that, and then we have full-fledged agriculture. I have a lot of new farmers out there that are just getting into it. They might be raising vegetable crops. They might be trying to go organic. They might be doing dairy and grazing and just all kinds of things. But really, it comes right back down to the soils situation. That's where it starts.
I don't know if I mentioned to you, George, last month we got to meet Francisco, Dr. Ariaga.
Okay.
At
great
Arlington
guy.
and see some of the work that they're doing around soil health and different practices there. So we have had an introduction to Extension from the specialist side.
Okay, excellent. Excellent. And Francisco is a great example of people who come out and help us at the county level to do different kinds of things. Actually, we've got a corn growers meeting, the Columbia County Corn Growers meeting December 14th, and Francisco is on the agenda to talk about this fall with all that wet soil that was out there as farmers were trying to harvest, and they drove through and they caused some compaction. So now what do we do? And as you learn about soils, I would strongly encourage students to try and use as little tillage as possible in most cases. We're finding that steel causes us more problems, and some people are not going to be able to till enough to fix the problems that they've caused over the years. So looking at cover crops, looking at minimum till, strip till, no till, there are some great things out there. Just kind of looking at some of the things that UW Extension has to offer, I'll kind of zip down through this sheet a little bit. Our main focus is trying to connect farmers to UW research. That's really what the county ag agent is trying to do. So if you have a question, you want to know what is the latest unbiased actual research out there, we're here to try and help get that into your hands. That's what it's really about. So there are so many different areas, and everybody has their own specific question or issue that they're trying to deal with, whether it be grain production, looking at corn, soybeans, wheat, small grains, cover crops, the variety trial data, which varieties do the best. And we still recommend, too, to farmers that do some variety trials on your own property, because your soils are different than those that are these varieties have been tested on. Now, we can tell you how they worked in Arlington or in Marshfield or in the Central Sands area, down in Lancaster, Wisconsin. We've got several different locations around the state that these trials are done at. But, again, it comes right back down to what works well for you.
Sort of truth testing on the farm.
Absolutely. You have to. I think that's key. And so a lot of this stuff too, we want you to look at what traits you need when you're selecting corn seed or soybean seed. Sometimes the dealers, great people, but they're in it to make money and sell you as much as they can. And that's one of the things that we challenge people, and we recommend too, that you hire a private crop consultant. And you say, well, the co-op would supply one for me for free, or this person would do it for free. Typically, they're selling stuff. UW Extension doesn't sell stuff. We give away information.
So one of the things, if somebody's trying to evaluate a variety on their farm, let's say,
sure,
or a handful of varieties,
yep,
you don't want them to just go ahead and plop right next to each other, or how would you might help them set it up in a way, right?
We can help you set it up a little bit, and it takes a little more work so that you have some good trials. If we take one field and we just do 6 rows of one variety of corn and 6 rows of another and 6 rows of another, and then we base all of our information based on the yields that came out of that, maybe one variety went down a strip that had different fertilizer than the other. So we try to randomize the blocks, put them in different parts of the field, try them in different types of soil and different conditions that way. And then you can really truth it and see which variety did the best on your field.
That's such a valuable thing that George, that you and your colleagues do around the state.
Right. Happy to help people set those up and come out and help you even at the end when you need to do those yield checks. We do that. I was on a farm yesterday just doing a yield check for the Wisconsin Corn Growers Yield Contest. So we're happy to do that. Forage production, dealing with pastures. We help people with that, how to improve their pastures. Get questions on fruit and vegetable production. The soil science, different kinds of tillage, like Francisco, the work he's doing to help us know and understand what works well and what maybe doesn't work quite as well. And we're constantly trying to get farmers to give up some of those tillage toys. They are wonderful machines, wonderful things. We like to do that. We've really got to get away from the idea of beating that soil into submission. We've got to start working with it and working smarter. It saves you time, it saves you money, it saves you fuel, it saves you equipment, all kinds of things that you can save along the way there. SNAP Plus nutrient management planning. I'm going to give Randy another document here. Find it here. It's a letter that Columbia County, and I work very closely with the Land and Water Conservation Department. We work with NRCS. We work with the Department of Ag out of Madison. They come up and help do trainings here. We've got some opportunities for students to come in and learn how to do this, and maybe you teach some of that right here in class.
We use SNAP Plus in our class.
Okay, do you? Well, we teach farmers that want to come in and learn how to do this, and most of the time their reason for doing that is so they can get their farmland preservation tax credit. You have to have a nutrient management plan. The reason I explain to people that you want to have a nutrient management plan is to save you some money. Put the nutrients where they need to go and only apply the nutrients that you need. Can save you just thousands and thousands of dollars. And with this document too, we're putting on a class coming up in February 1st, 8th, and 15th, and you get paid to come to class. We pay the farmers $350 just for coming to those 3 class sessions. I know here at Madison College, it costs you money to go to school. We're going to pay you to go to school. So if you're interested or available and you know some other people, please share this document and information with them so that they can get some money to come to class. So we pay them $350 to come to class, and then also you can get about $2 an acre with your soil sample. So if you stop and think about it, a soil sample, it costs $8 to have that processed. Well, one soil sample is supposed to do 5 acres. So if you take that 5 acres times $2 an acre, we're going to pay you $10. That'll pay for the actual soil analysis. And, you know, $2 for every 5 acres isn't much for your labor, but you'd be doing that anyway. You know, or you can hire somebody else to do it for you and pay a lot more if you want. But this is an opportunity that we're working that Land and water conservation. Okay, there we're back on. So again, with the land and water conservation, they get some grants. So we're just very much trying to encourage farmers to get involved and to do that nutrient management planning. Custom operator rates. I've got a handout here, and we've got documentation. You can actually go online and find these or call us. But it gives you an idea of what do people pay for tillage? What do people pay for harvesting? What do people pay for planting? All the different kinds of operations, from cutting and raking and baling hay. What are some ranges? I get questions on that quite often. And so we've got the custom rate guide from 2013. This usually gets updated about every 3 years. I haven't seen the 2016 one out yet. And the National Ag Statistics Service they get budget cuts too, so they're putting this information out a little less often than it used to be. We used to do this every 2 years, now it's down to 3, and my guess it may slide into 4 years as we go along. But again, some great information that's available from your local county extension agent. Crop budgets. We've got some nice spreadsheets. I didn't bring any of those along, but if people are interested, as you look at it, where do you save some money? And that's one of our major focuses coming up for the 2017 growing season. We know that farmers are experiencing low dairy milk prices, low hay prices, low corn prices, low soybean prices, low wheat prices. And yet fuel and machinery and all that stuff still keeps going up. The cost of seeds does not get cheaper. So where do you try and figure out if it's costing you $4 a bushel to raise corn and you're getting $3 or $3.50 a bushel for that corn? You can't do that real long and stay in business. So where do we find some areas that you can shave some dollars and shave some expenses from that corn budget? So do the budgeting ahead so that you're not looking at a loss. You have to plan to make money. And that's one of the things that we've got farmers out there that are not doing very well at that. And then they're wondering why they're feeling such a financial pinch. And especially many of the younger farmers, you don't have the equity in your business yet. And you've got some big loans out there maybe. So how do you make that all fit and work together? So again, crop budgeting is very, very important. Wisconsin County cash rent. Got another handout on that. And we try to keep that up to date a little more often too. There you go, be a little preventative there. So county cash rents, what is the average rent in a county? And I try to explain to people too that that's kind of a dangerous number. Yes, it's good. It's a good starting point. But if you think about even Columbia County, we've got some beautiful prairie soils in the south and down to that kind of southeast portion by Columbus and Randolph area. But you get in the northern part of the county and we're into some pretty plain old sands. Or you've got some marshland and whatnot. So average cash rents are kind of dangerous in a way. So again, but it does give you a starting point as to where you go. Are you living near a place where there's a dairy farm and they need to be spreading manure and they need larger land base? Well, you can maybe get a little better rent in some of those areas. Are your fields larger? Are you a 40-acre field? Well, farmers will pay a little more per acre for a 40-acre field than they will for maybe there's 10 fields on strips and contour strips that they have to negotiate. And we've got water runs and grass waterways and things to manage. So again, all those kinds of things do add up into that. But this document does give you kind of a nice feel for what's out there and what's available.
It is a good starting point, George. I remember Dick Wilkowski always used to talk about averages. He'd say if you have 1 foot in ice water and 1 foot in boiling water, the average temperature is okay, but the other foot's very happy.
Right. Exactly.
But like you say, you got to have the conversation has to start from somewhere.
Right.
So that's what the variables of the land really change as you move across not just Columbia County, but most of the counties in Wisconsin.
Right.
So that really depends on what's exactly there and the capability of that land. good starting point to have a conversation around these numbers.
That's right, Randy. And it also, once you get that starting point, remember that all of these things are negotiable.
Right.
And even with recommending to people as they start to book their seed for next year, book fertilizer for next year, that is more negotiable than you think it is. A lot of times the dealer will tell you this is the price. Well, you might say, hey, we got to do a little better than this. Or shop around. You have that right. You don't have to just take it straight up. Now, when you're going to get parts for a combine or parts for a piece of machinery and the dealer says this is what it costs, that's not so negotiable. When you first buy the machine, that's negotiable. But when it comes to parts, that's a little tougher. But the seed and fertilizer and some of these things, the chemicals that you might be using for spraying, that stuff is more negotiable than you think.
And there's also different ways to think about setting pricing negotiations, not just the total price, but maybe get a price break by paying early or doing different things. So
correct.
You don't want to show up in March saying I need all these bags of seed.
Yeah, then you're not in a very good negotiating position when you wait that long.
Yeah, exactly.
So be aware. We've already talked a little bit about the on-farm research trials that go on that some farmers do, and extension agents help them with that quite a bit. Corn grower meetings. The Columbia County Corn Growers meets at least twice a year, typically in December and in March. We've got a couple of meetings already planned. I've got one that'll probably be held down in Arlington in March. And again, we're going to be really hitting these ideas of how to shave some costs over of corn production for 2017. We don't see too much other way to get around that, because the prices are not going to be skyrocketing, not when we've had such good production. And it's unfortunate farmers will be in kind of a tight spot here after such a good growing year. And the yields that are coming off these corn fields and bean fields, just amazing this year. So again, when we have a lot of crop, though, then the price goes the other direction and it causes some major challenges. I heard a lot of farmers tell me that they did real well in that drought of 2012 because the price was high. Yeah, we didn't have as much to sell, but their net income per acre was much higher then than it is right now. And they've got huge bumper crops. So again, that's hard to deal with, but that's part of the financial things that we have to work on. Pasture walks, we hold several of those each year for people that are trying to grow pasture and feed livestock using the pastures. What a great way to have mobile harvesting units out there picking up that crop. That saves a lot of money and a lot of time. Right along
mobile manure sprayers.
Exactly. That's important. And one other thing I'll just mention here real quick, when we're talking about pasture walks, a lot of farmers, even in the pasture settings, they roll up bales of hay and whatnot. Please try to do something to cover those. I just did an article in our Ag Reporter and for another magazine that, locating or storing your hay out along the fence row next to the woods right outside is not a great method of hay storage. I've seen just way too many bales of hay that have gone poor, and really recommend that you somehow manage those. Also, don't get caught in the idea that you can bale big round bales at a wetter temperature than you can the old small squares. You cannot, because it's a larger area. It's harder for that moisture that is trapped in that bale to get out, and it ends up causing that bale to mold from the inside out. And so what you think you have wrapped up sometimes is pretty ugly. And so we recommend that people do some testing of those big round bales and feed your animals some good hay. So take care of those a little bit. UW Extension offers some help with engineering. I've had David Kummel come out to the farm, different farms several times to help with dairy setups, to help with manure pit siting, to help with barn changes and recommendations. What kind of a pole shed should I use for handling beef cattle? Sometimes we plan 2 and 3 different uses for that space under the roof. It might be hay storage part of the time. It might be machinery storage part of the time. It might be cattle housing part of the time. And then working into it some sort of a chute system for handling and managing those cattle. So we do lots of different kinds of things that can help farmers work on that to come up with some facilities to improve the health and well-being of the animals, as well as the health and well-being and safety of the handlers as well. So we provide some help there. Farm succession, I've got a couple of documents here. One is a series of statewide webinars that we've been hosting over the last couple of months, and it'll go into 2017 some. And this is really of major interest to many young farmers as well, as how do they get in there, how do they get started. We've got too many horror stories out there right now of farmers who didn't plan, and then Uncle Sam will plan for you. And yet that's typically not a great plan for the farm family, because we end up with some taxes that we don't want to pay or can't pay, and so then some things don't go quite the way the family would have liked. So a lot of these we get started. I always recommend that people come in, or every once in a while somebody comes in and says, we want to do a farm succession plan. We need it done by the end of December. Farm succession planning takes a couple years. It really does, for you to get it together and do it right. Yes, you can do a couple of quick Band-Aid things, but you're not going to have a really good plan that you're going to be happy with when you do it that quickly. So we've got that, those programs available, and then we've got another series coming up here, Randy, in January around the southern part of the state that each of the students here would be invited to, as well as your parents, your farm families. So we've got several locations that we're doing. The nearest one to us here probably is either down at Rex's in Wanakee or Beaver Dam over at Marine Park Technical College. So, you know, depending upon where you live, one of these might be fairly close to you. And these are going to be pretty inexpensive. I think they're like $10 a person. And then we have a break for multiple people in the same farm or the same family coming. So the idea is not to make a whole bunch of money off of this from our farm friends, but to get them in and get them thinking and talking and understanding more parts of farm succession, because we want to be able to keep as many of the young farmers on the land as possible. The average age of the farmer in Columbia County here being about 57 years old, that's the average. Okay, so there's a lot of 60 and 70-year-old farmers and some 40s and 50s mixed in there, but who owns that property, and how do we get that transferred to the next generation so that they can make some money and make a good living and raise a family out on that farmland. So a couple of opportunities there. The Ag Reporter, this is something that we'd love to get in your hands. The Ag Reporter itself comes out every 2 months in written form, and you can get it electronically as well. But this is a newsletter, and we have some partners that work with this on us. Farm Service Agency, the County Land Conservation Office puts in some articles. Sometimes we get some things from the DNR and wildlife area that affects farmers, especially with extra numbers of deer or turkeys or even some of the wolf situations that are out there. So how can farmers deal with those problems or challenges? So the Ag Reporter newsletter comes out every 2 months in the form that I've shown you there. It's electronically too, so we can send it right to your smartphone or to your tablet or laptop. And then along with that is what I've started just this past year called the Ag Reporter Snapshot. And that's an electronic thing that comes out every Friday. It's probably on the way right now as we speak. So it's really kind of a nice little quick thing. Everybody that's on our Ag Reporter email list gets this every Friday. And I put together 6 to 10 items each week with a nice heading and a little description. And if you're interested in that topic, away you go. It might be on soybeans, it might be on alfalfa, it might be on dairy, livestock. There's an article on foot baths this week. So again, just different kinds of things that farmers might need some information about. So I shoot this out, you look at it, look at the items. If you like what you see, you click on it. If you don't like it, you hit the delete button. So it's pretty, I've had some pretty good reviews on that coming back, that it's hopefully more timely. When you only do a newsletter every 2 months, you have to think ahead, and we don't always know what's going to happen for sure. And so it's a good way for folks, and many of these farmers, as I mentioned, average age 57. Many of the farmers in their 50s are not so computer savvy, and so they don't like to see this document in an electronic form. They want it in their hands so they can sit down and read it at their leisure. So that works out pretty well that way. So kind of a new innovation that we've got here in Columbia County. I've just put some information, some websites on the bottom of the sheet here then too. The UW Extension FYI website, a lot of free videos, podcasts, publications available at that website on many, many different topics. Livestock, crops and soils, manure handling, manure safety, that sort of thing. Then we've got the Learning Store that's available. You can go online, you can get documents free there. And here's a kind of a catalog of many of the documents that you'll find at the Learning Store. A lot of different publications. When you go on the Learning Store online, they're free. If you want to order them, they will send you some of those, but they're going to charge you for them if they print them out and whatnot. But most of you are pretty computer savvy, so you can go pick these up for free at any time of the day or night. You download them, you can save them, you can print them right from your own home office. So it works out pretty good. I gave you our website, Columbia County, UWEX.edu, the Columbia County website. And there you get into the ag stuff, you get into our my other office partners with the family living educators, with the 4-H educators, with the community and resource development educators, and with the FoodWise people. We used to be the WNEP program. So you have access to all of those people and information there as well. Last thing I'll leave you with is that website there, the Haymarket Report. If you're buying or selling hay, comes out every couple of weeks throughout the entire Midwest. We've got a couple of ag agents that keep track of that, hay prices and some of the hay markets around, hay auctions, and compile this information to, again, give us an idea. What's that big round bale of hay worth? What's a square, or large squares worth? What are those kinds of things going for? So again, a good opportunity to keep us all up to date on some of the pricing that's out there. Okay. Questions? But again, UW Extension, we don't charge for our services. Some of the meetings, we have a small meeting fee that may help to pay for the price of the meal or a few of the publications that you'll be getting. But, you know, for the most part, pretty good value for what you end up paying for it. The phone call is always free. And I get requests to come right out the farm to look at things and try and help identify. If I can't answer it, then I have access to the specialists, like Francisco that you guys have met already. We've got Joe Lauer in the corn agronomy area, Sean Conley with soybeans, small grains. We've got wheat specialists, soil specialists, safety specialists, all kinds of, almost any kind of resource that you need for your farm and your operation. We've got somebody that can help you get the answers that you need to make that place work well. Exactly. Okay.
Well, all right, George. Well, we appreciate that, and like to have an opportunity for people to see, once they're no longer with me in my classroom, where are some other places that they have folks they need to know throughout their farm.
Exactly.
So, extension has always been a big part of that, and always will be. And so get to know.
We certainly hope so.
Your extension agents. Excellent.